What if I told you that the Bible actually talks about dragon masters in charge of much of what goes on earth? We can understand this a bit more by understanding the journey of Elijah the prophet. Tradition teaches us that when Elijah was taken into heaven, he was transformed into the seraph Sandalphon. It is taught that he can come to earth in human form and interact as he sees fit in the world with no one having a clue as to who he is. He could be the beggar on the corner or the mysterious stranger that has come to help you. There are stories in every generation, including our own, of his appearance and help to people. Eventually, he will come just before the Messiah arrives, and then we will know him by name. He was transformed into a class of angels known as seraphim, and the word seraphim comes from the root seraph, which means serpents. They're also called the Watchers by Daniel, or the Teli in the classic mystical work, the Sefer Yetzirah. These dragon master serpents are a holy angelic race of beings who serve God on heaven and on earth. They are largely in control of matters on earth by the authority of God. They do interact with humanity quite overtly, oftentimes manipulating humankind's consciousness, and sometimes take on human form where they're known as Ishim. I have two teachers, in fact, that have had experiences with these Ishim. One appeared to my main teacher as a man, albeit a strange man, in Jerusalem, commenting on the spiritual practice of my teacher's teacher, bizarrely and briefly, moving on, and then appeared to him many years later in a bookstore in New York where my teacher was looking for spiritual books, and he pointed to a certain book emphatically, then left the store and disappeared. It was his second bizarre experience that made my teacher believe it was an angel. They may appear in any variety of forms only known to them, and one can wonder if they are perhaps responsible for some of the so-called ET encounters that seem to be proliferating, or perhaps are part of the reptilians' images that some people see when they are on ayahuasca. Who knows? They are higher, more advanced, and closer to God than we are. Our relationship with this race of beings is as if we are younger, primitive siblings, and that this is their earth that we live on. So if you're wondering who is really in charge around here, it's probably the dragon masters of the Bible, alternatively known as the Watchers, the Seraphim, or the Teli. It is interesting to note that in Isaiah 6, besides the otherworldly dragon-like description of these angels, they're noted to be surrounding God, designated in this case by the name Adonai, which in the language of the mystics designates that they are associated very much with the lower level of the spiritual universes that we are inhabiting. God has very much designed a celestial government structure, and this is one of its manifestations. While our lower world is very much physical, there is also a spiritual component to this lower world. And just like we discussed in regards to Elijah, now a member of this race of beings, they can come and go between the spiritual and physical planes of our lower world. There are higher spiritual worlds that we might discuss in another video. In later literature written by the Hebrew sages, these angels are referred to as the Upper Sanhedrin, which the Lower Sanhedrin, I guess you could say, was an assembly on earth that acted as a tribunal. One would think that this Upper Sanhedrin would act in perfect harmony, but like here on earth, there is contention even among the ranks of the Teli. It is said that they are actually known to quarrel and fight. It appears there is a struggle between good and evil even at this particular spiritual level of existence. So, as I said, if you've ever wondered who's really in charge around here, it's probably the dragon masters or the Teli of Scripture. As Sefer Temumah, a mystical work written in the 13th and 14th century, writes, quote, "There is no nation or tongue that does not have its own angelic prince in the upper worlds. Being that these supernal princes have become corrupted, they are constantly fighting, making war in heaven. Therefore, there is an overwhelming great compulsion upon all their nations below to fight more and more here on earth. This is why we have wars here on earth. It is because of the princes of heaven." As I said, they have the power to manipulate our consciousness and can move people, societies, and nations in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. So what does this all have to do with you. What is our role? Our role is to move global consciousness in the way of unity, to seek out higher truth and work towards a state of enlightenment and peace, to be simple men and women with open hearts of goodwill to our neighbors. It is up to us to follow the divine path that leads to true harmony with each other. When we evolve and come together, we are in control of our destiny and in harmony with the Almighty. When we do this, then real transformation will take place. So, thank you for taking the time to learn a bit about the dragon masters of the Bible and their role in our world. May the one who makes peace in his high places and who wishes to bring that harmony down to earth give us the strength to make it so. Thank you goes to Rabbi Ariel Bar-Tzadok for his works inspiring this video. If you wish to learn more about these topics, please like and follow here, and also visit Rabbi Ariel Bar-Tzadok's website, koshertorah.com, for which this video would have been impossible to make.